Well, first of all, Jenna, before I make my list out, look, let all of the players on this list and a coach, and including some who aren't on this list, are in danger of going 0-2. And when you start the NFL season 0-2, your chances of making the playoffs are slim. All right, since 1990, when they went to the 12-team playoff, you see, less than 12% of the teams that started 0-2 made the postseason. The last 2 years, including last year, when they actually expanded to 14 teams, all 20 teams that started 0-2 missed the playoffs.
Wow.
So all of these guys are under that pressure. And again, even some who aren't on this list. That said, let's get it going. All right, number 5, Dak Prescott. Dak, I love Dak, but he's got to prove that he can beat some winning teams. And the Chargers, 1-0. All right, Dak, for his career, 13-20 against teams with winning records. Last 23 games, he's only won 6 of them against teams with winning records. And he's 2-10 in his last dozen contests against teams over 500. So go out there and prove that you can beat a good team. That gaudy numbers are great, but they're only great if you're winning. I've called Dak elite now, and many others as well, but one thing elite quarterbacks do is they beat other good teams. So Dak's under pressure. He's got to win this week against the Chargers. At number 4, yes, Josh Allen. I know Nick loves this one. All right, look.
Yeah.
First of all, you got to prove, Josh, that last year was no fluke. He was terrific. He finished second in the MVP voting. But in game 1, in the loss to Pittsburgh, that most people think aren't going to be very good this year, he looked more like the quarterback of his first 2 years than he did in his 3rd year that made him a superstar. Oh, yeah, he also signed the second most lucrative contract in NFL history, 6 years, $258 million, could be worth even a little more. And the Bills are playing a division opponent, Miami, that's 1-0. So you can't fall behind too far in that AFC East division. So Josh Allen got to deliver this week. At number 3, we've talked about him ad nauseum. Our man, yes, Aaron Rodgers. Here's what we want to know. Aaron, are you all in? Are you all in? A lot of people are blaming that horrible performance in week 1 on, is Aaron really with us? He contemplated retirement. You know, he didn't want to play for the Packers anymore. Is he really here? All right, you got to go prove it, Aaron, that you are all in, not only to us watching, but I think even to some people in that locker room. And look, they're playing Detroit. Now, if there ever was just what the doctor ordered, it's the Detroit Lions. So he's got to go get it done because the next 2 weeks get a lot tougher. San Francisco and Pittsburgh. So Aaron Rodgers has to rebound. All right, at number 2, we just talked about him. Is he Danny Dimes or is he Danny Drops? The pressure is on. New York is watching him. Is this kid a winner? Can this kid hold on to the football? We gave him weapons. We we think is a great running back in Saquon Barkley. Daniel Jones has got to win. This is his 3rd season. All right. Eli Manning, who many compared Daniel Jones to, he was making the playoffs in his 2nd and 3rd year and winning a Super Bowl in his 4th. So the pressure's on, or they're going to start looking at Spencer Rattler and other collegiate QBs.
Yep.
All right, at number 1, the most pressure is on Matt Nagy, not a quarterback, although it's related to quarterbacks. You might want to throw Andy Dalton in there as a 1A. But Matt Nagy entered the season as the coach on the hottest seat. All right, and now his refusal to start Justin Fields over pedestrian Andy Dalton is upsetting the fan base and befuddling not only onlookers like us, but even maybe players in his locker room. All right, so if he doesn't want to lose the team, they have to win big this week. And if Andy Dalton goes out there and has a stinker, another stinker, and they lose to fall to 0-2, Matt Nagy, you're going to be burning up on that seat. So those, Jenna, are the 5 guys with the most pressure on them entering week 2 of the NFL season. Do y'all need to talk, or is it just
listen,
salute?
You
right?
know what?
Can we go to a commercial break?
Let me tell you something, Broussard. You know who's also, I'm just being honest, it's going to surprise you. You know who also maybe should be on that list feeling pressure? Yours truly. Because lists are my thing. That's a hell of a list. I don't look at it and say there's any major flaws, any egregious errors. It's an excellent list. I give you credit for it, but I do want to zoom in on, you know who I want to zoom in on. Because my only critique would be maybe the guy you have at number 4, we could move up to number 3 or number 2 or maybe even number 1. So here's the thing for Josh Allen. He's under pressure for a multitude of different reasons, right? Like Rodgers under pressure because he played so poorly in the offseason, those 2 reasons. Daniel Jones is under pressure because he's played poorly up to this point in his career and time could be running out. Josh Allen's under a very different type of pressure. He's under pressure of the contract. He's under pressure of he's playing for a team that has had no expectations for a quarter century, now all of a sudden has sky-high expectations. He's playing under the pressure of they really only have one way to win. It's through him. The defense is mediocre, at least it was last year. We'll see what it is this year. And the running game, we can show the numbers, as of last year and what we saw against Pittsburgh, somewhat non-existent. Like they built a team to really focus on, look at that. They're basically bottom 5 in everything from the running back position, which is one of the reasons Josh Allen runs the ball as often as he does and on as many designed runs as he does. He's also under the pressure of, they've given him weapons. He's got Diggs. They brought in Sanders. He has MC anti-vax in the slot. And don't forget about the great Jake Kummerow. Who wouldn't want Jake Kummerow as your 4th or 5th receiver? So he's got all the weapons any player could have. And there's this. Quietly, it's not just one bad game. He was bad in the conference championship game against the Chiefs. He was borderline bad in the divisional round against the Ravens. So he's on a bit of a streak of bad games since he finished last year on such a high note in the regular season, fraudulently finishing ahead of Mahomes in the MVP race. And you mentioned it, Broussard, having a divisional game in Miami when they're 1-0 and you could fall to 0-2, and you know it's going to come down to you after you were miserable in the second half last week. Your team got outscored 23-6 in the second half. I agree with you entirely on the totality of the list. I just think you could argue Josh Allen should be even higher. I think he's under tremendous pressure this weekend, Broussard.
All right, well, first of all, thank you for the love, Nick, on the list, especially considering I've been so harsh on your list and your tiers and all that. And nice line about MC anti-vax Cole Beasley. All right, nice line about him.
I came up with that.
And you made some really good points. You made some really good points about Josh Allen, but I have to weigh them on the Nick Wright curve, all right? And the Nick Wright curve says, well, Pat, how much of that was really just because of Pat Mahomes? How much of that you said was because of Patrick Mahomes? And you know that last year Josh Allen was, in his territory and coming up behind him and tugging at his cape and all that. So because of that, I have to leave Josh Allen at 4 wilds because of the Nick Wright curve.
Okay, all right, so I'm going to make one change, Broussard, and I think you're going to agree with me. Because after the Cowboys game, we were all in agreement that Dak was super impressive. So however, we know the Cowboys took the loss, but we've had something positive to say about Dak. Does anyone have anything positive to say about the Tennessee Titans? They came into this season like, you know what? Defense gets a little bit better. You add an all-time great receiver. Ryan Tannehill is better than everybody thinks. King Henry is back running wild. And they were a total disaster. Chandler Jones sacked Ryan Tannehill 5 times. Kyler threw 5 touchdowns. Now, that was at home. Now they've got to go to Seattle, where Russ is going to cook them up. He just had 4 touchdowns. Russ is going to cook them up again. Now we look at the schedule of who the Titans have coming up. Let's suppose they lose this weekend. Now you got the Colts. Then you got Jets, Jacksonville, where I know those seem like easy games. I would be nervous if your secondary is that bad that one of those teams steals a win. Then you got the Bills. Then you got the Chiefs. You could be very easily looking at 2-7. I would be very nervous if I was Mike Vrabel and I get off in a bad start in Seattle. So I think he's number 5 on your list. Dak moves to number 6.
Wow, Mike Vrabel's number 5. Okay, first of all, Wiles, you kind of overestimated the expectations for the Titans. Everybody was expecting this and that. Just because you thought Ryan Tannehill is going to be the MVP this season, I mean, don't throw the rest of NFL Nation on that list. Here's the thing, and I get it. You know, Tennessee, they looked horrible in game 1. But I got to think Mike Vrabel's safe. I don't care what people out there are saying, because Vrabel, he's been good. No. What? He's been good. They've been to the AFC Championship under him. They made the playoffs the last 2 years under him. Before he got there, they had only made the playoffs once in the last 9 years. And so he has them now as a relevant football team. And remember, I took him out to lunch when he was in high school, too. So I got a soft spot for Vrabel.
I forgot about that.
But I think
that's
he's
a good
safe.
point.
Wow.
Speaking of biases, you're talking about Nick Wright, Patrick Mahomes bias. We forgot. Chris Broussard, Big Brothers, Big Sisters program biases. Let's not forget that. That's a whole dossier of those biases. We just don't discuss them on the show. But to be clear, Wilds wasn't saying Vrabel would be on the hot seat, just saying pressure to not let the season totally go left. I would argue, you're saying in place of Dak, put Mike Vrabel. If we're going to replace Dak with a coach, we probably should be replacing Dak with his coach. Because I thought you were going to say, Wilds, everyone had nice things to say about Dak Prescott, something nice to say about Dak Prescott. I can't think of anything nice to say about Mike McCarthy after that Week 1 performance from a coaching perspective. So just to parse a little bit, I think Mike McCarthy is probably feeling a lot of pressure, and he does not, Jenna, have the job security that Mike Vrabel has. He doesn't have the job security that a lot of coaches have after an uninspiring year 1, and I would argue an uninspiring start to year 2.
Sure. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from First Things First, or go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.